ASAP Elite. I'm your host, Coach Penn, along with the world's greatest co-host, Professor Haas. Today's guest was one of the best defenders in NFL history. Please allow me to introduce you to an official member of ASAP Elite's No-Fly Zone. From Louisville, Kentucky, Coach Cris Dishman. How you doing, Coach?
Good. Thank you guys for having me. My pleasure being on here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hey, let's get into it. First off, can you do us the honor of introducing yourself to our audience and explaining how you were introduced to football through the time that you decided to hang up the cleats?
Well, yes, like you said, I'm from Louisville, Kentucky. I'm the youngest of five kids. My oldest brother, Bill and Colin, was elite athletes. They played football, basketball, and baseball, and I was just trying to follow in their footsteps. Um, Unfortunately for me, I kept growing, and they did, and they stopped. My granddad was a jockey. My granddad was 4'11". Grew up with horses and loving horses, and that's all. When I first was born, and when I was young, I thought I was going to be a jockey, but I kept growing. So I read out of my high school dream. I mean, my childhood dream was to be a jockey. Wow. So I out my childhood dream. So so I got into sports, into football and basketball and baseball. Well, I didn't play baseball, football and basketball and track. Those are the three sports I did. I always loved the game of football. Even though I played receiver, I guess I always had a defensive mentality because I used to like the guys of Mike Haynes, Lester Hayes, Mel Blunt. I used to like to watch those guys play and hit and stuff like that. But I played receiver in high school. I played back. Got to Purdue University the first day of the team meeting. Mm-hmm. How you have your first team meeting, they used to say offense stay here, defense in another room. And I kept hearing my coach, Ron Mims at the time, our defensive back coach, kept saying Dishman. And I'm thinking, okay, there's another Dishman in the room because I'm a receiver. I'm not a defensive back, So then he came up and said, "Don't you hear me calling your name?" I said, "Coach, I'm a receiver." He said, "You're a defensive back now. Come on." So started working mysterious ways,
Yeah.
I went over there and there was one seat left, and it was next to I think Rod Woodson was on you guys' podcast before.
That's right.
The one seat left, I sit by Rod Woodson. So go thank it, huh? And he saw the worry and the frustration in my face and voice, and he's like, "Man, don't worry about it. You be good at this. I help you out." So him and I became good friends that day, and got as much as possible because he played. He was just all world and everything, but he taught me some things and stuff like that. And Coach Mims was such a good coach, and off I went. Did my years at Purdue, then on to I met a coach named Nick Saban there when I got drafted by the Houston Oilers, and he gave me a solid foundation. I tell guys all the time, I'm just so blessed to have such great coaches, from Ron Mims to Coach Saban to Rod Perry to Pat Thomas to Tom Bettis to so many great coaches in my future. I mean, in my life, it was crazy. So the only thing I'm doing today is teaching the young men what I've been taught.
Understood. First of all, that secondary was crazy.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
You got to shut down on the left and the right.
Oh, yeah. Complete shutdown.
Well, that's one thing with Rod. Rod started off as a safety. Mm-hmm. I'm going to tell this story about him. He started off as a safety, but he was so fast that every time a play action pass, he was up by the line of scrimmage. So we had to move him. You had to move him to the corner and just tell him, "Hey, you just go play corner and cover that guy over there." His instincts, he was like always flying up to the line of scrimmage, and he wasn't too good of a safety in the play action pass department. He was always flying up to the line of scrimmage, but then he became a good corner. And Rod is just a good athlete. He's the only guy.
That's a good dude overall, man.
Yeah,
he is. He's the only guy I know that knocked out every hurdle and still won the race.
Oh yeah, really? Oh boy. Yeah, so
You know, one of the things that I noticed, you are probably the first guest that we've had that didn't talk about baseball being one of their loves growing up. You know, you said that was the one sport that you didn't play, but then you threw a little hitch in there because you said that really your dream was to be a jockey.
that's that
Right.
Kentucky Derby thing. That's the
Yeah,
Louisville.
well, Ben from Louisville, you know, like I said, my granddad was a jockey.
Right.
I have uncles who have trained horses and been around horses up in Lexington, Kentucky, and New Zion area. I just, like I said, I've just always loved horses, you know, and not only quarter horses, but thoroughbreds.
Okay.
So just being around it is always my first love. That's what I thought I was going to be. But when you get 6 feet, you can't be a jockey.
Yeah, it's kind of yeah.
Yeah. So you have started the GOAT Foundation,
Yes.
which is based on education through educating the importance of sports. So can you let our audience in on what you got going there?
Well, the GOAT skills started with, you know, I was there one day and I said, okay, let's have a specialty camp. Let's have a camp where guys like Deion Sanders or Rod Woodson and Daryl Green and myself can teach the young guys, a young man today of how to play the defensive back position. You know, we've done that. And so we had a camp there in Houston. Unfortunately, COVID and everything else from past years have keeping us from having another camp, but it was more started off as a specialty camp. But it's also teaching people through sports lifestyles. You know, we not only just taught them defensive back drills and stuff like that, we talked to them afterwards and taught them lifestyles and talked to them about being on time. You know, as you and I was talking yesterday, that I'd rather go out and if I'm own a business, I'm gonna go out and hire a person who plays sports. Because in sports, you always have to be on time.
Yes,
You
sir.
always have to be on time. You have to have integrity. You have to be accountable. You have to be dependable. Because that person next to you is dependent on you.
That's
You know,
right.
my first year out the league in 2000, when I retired in 2000, I had a person who was cleaning my pool. He told me he was going to come on a Monday. He didn't show up to Wednesday, so I had to fire him.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was always thought if you tell a person you're going to do something on a Monday at a certain time, you have to be there on Monday at 12 o'clock, not Wednesday at 2. You know, and I was saying, if the world run like sports of being on time, being dependable, being trustworthy, then the world will be a lot better place. But when you have people say that, you have to say, I'm gonna be here at 9 o'clock and they're not, and don't call or text or do anything like that, that shows that you're not dependable. And I know things happen. Like today, some stuff happened with me. I had to call you and tell you that I was running late. But that's just the courtesy of respect of each other's time.
Yes, sir. I mean, as a veteran, you know, punctuality can be in life or death. You know, but in business, it can also tell you a lot about people, especially with the first impression type of deal and how they value their work ethics and values. So I totally agree with you there.
You know, one thing you said earlier that I really want to point out, because we also, this is another theme that I'm seeing with our athletes, is coming in. You played receiver. You went to Purdue thinking, hey, I'm going to be this receiver. And you probably had all these dreams about what you were going to do as a receiver. And then they changed your position. Now, that and it actually was a blessing for you, because you had a phenomenal career at Purdue, then went on to the NFL and had a phenomenal career in the NFL. And so the thing is I know that a lot of times there are athletes that truthfully their career is pretty much over because of their actual attitude or mentality after they've been switched to a new position. So talk about the mental change and just the acceptance of changing a position because a coach felt like this might be the best fit for you.
Well, I'm gonna say this story quick. First of all, it wasn't a transfer portal back in those days. So you couldn't put yourself in the transfer portal or nothing like that. Okay. The story is, I did have a short baseball career. I played one season. I never got in the game, but after the third game, I wanted to quit. My dad said, "You're not quitting."
Right.
At the sixth game, I wanted to quit. My dad said, "You're not quitting." After the season, I said, I'm going to quit. My dad said, you can quit because you went through the whole season.
Right.
So now, as I got transferred, as I was at Purdue, I called home. There wasn't no cell phone back then. So he had to pick up a landline and call home. I called home. Now, granted, my dad passed away this September. Granted, in his lifetime, he probably answered the phone probably about 10 times in his whole lifetime. I called home and said, Dad, I want to transfer to Michigan because they got me playing this defensive back stuff.
Go blue.
Okay. My dad said, okay. You'll be all right. And click, and you hear this bad. And I'm like, hold on, something must have happened. I said, something must have happened. So let me call back. So I'll call back. Then my mom answered, being the supportive wife she was. She's called back and said, I said, Mom, did Dad tell you that they want to switch me to this receiver stuff? And I want to get out of here. I want to go somewhere else. Mm-hmm. Then my mom said, yeah, he told me, but he said you'll be okay. And when we get some money, we come up there and bring you a care package and all that stuff. And I'm like, hold on, they're not really listening to me. My life is going in trouble, and they're telling me about some kind of care package. I'm telling them I want to come home. I go and switch schools, and they tell me, hey, when we get some money, can give me a care package. So it was a lifelong lesson of sticking stuff out. You may not. Sometimes you got to go through tough times to get to where you really want to get to. You know, and I'm glad I did stick it out, because if I probably transferred and probably played receiver and probably wouldn't have been where I am at today. So there's a life lesson of getting hung up on by your dad. It's just
at the same time, you would have been a Wolverine, man. So who knows? It would turn out the same way. Yeah. So I want to ask you a question. You know, with us being ball players, football players, specifically, it takes a specific type of work ethic and values that you must put in order to become successful on all platforms. You know, when it comes to punctuality, discipline, communication, and everything that goes with that. What and how did everything that you put into being an incredible football player on the highest level help you ethic and value-wise outside of football when you decide to hang the cleats up?
The work ethic, getting up at 5:30 in the morning when it's dark, dragging yourself out of bed when you're sore, probably being one or two the only person in the gym, running the hills when you know that you can quit and nobody else would know. But keep running those hills and keep doing those workouts, keep lifting those weights and keep backpedaling and keep working on your footwork. It's stuff like that that athletes put their body through. And sometimes you can go 6 days a week and your body is sore, but you know that seventh day that you have to get out on that Sunday and do some type of jogging, do some type of walking, do some type of cardio or something just to keep yourself going. Mm-hmm. And it's pushing yourself to a limit where it's okay to feel like you're about to throw up. It's okay to feel that you're sore, but it's okay that it's to push yourself through the soreness. And mentally, when you want to quit, it's telling yourself that, no, I'm not going to quit. I'm going to go at least 10 more minutes. I'm going to go at least 5 more minutes. I'm going to go 3 more laps or something like that. You know, it's just a mentality that you have to be, because everyone talk about it. Everyone always talk about, I want to be the greatest. Mm-hmm. I tell everyone all the time, what is the greatest? Right. Who has the plateau of saying the greatest? You know, because you could say, oh, Muhammad Ali was the greatest. Well, it's probably Muhammad Ali at his time was the greatest, but it's probably more boxers up is going to come up probably want to be the greatest. Who's the greatest basketball player? Someone say Michael Jordan, someone say LeBron, someone say Kobe, someone say Bill Russell. You know, everybody is the greatest is in their era. That's you know, right. Who is the greatest? No one can never know who's the greatest is. But do you work out to be the greatest? Or do you work out to say that you want to be the greatest? Because I see a lot of people talking about I'm grinding, I'm working out, but yet still, it seems to amaze me that how can you grind and work out and still video yourself working out? Yes. I don't think you can do both. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes when you grind and work out, it's not caught on tape. It's not caught on film. It's not caught on your video. It's you versus the weights. It's you versus your mind. And if you can beat your mind, then I think you can beat everybody else. And it's just the mentality you have to have is beat yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's hearing that. I'm one, thank you for saying that, because, you know, in this era of YouTube, Instagram, and all this, you know, a lot of time these kids, all they see, you know, growing up watching you, all I saw was the pass deflections, the interceptions, the picks. You know, those are the things that we see as fans, right, or spectators, if you will. And one thing that they don't understand is what goes in to be able to do that on Sundays or on in any sport, right? You know, when you sit there and watch LeBron, they talk about how he spends $1 million on his body. You know, so when you talk about those different things and all that goes in it so that he can hit that shot, so that you can, you know, right, get that pick six, I think that's where it gets lost, because they look at the highlights and don't see the journey, right? Because that highlight is literally 1/10 of what you had to do to get to that highlight. And I think that the today's athlete and athletes a lot of times in general don't get that part.
Hey, Haas, in addition to that, not only, you know, doing what he had to do to become a great NFL quarterback, but let's go back to college. You know,
Right.
becoming from being a receiver and then going to corner, offense to defense, it's an entirely different thought process. You know, you have to train your body now to be a defensive back. So yeah, it took a specific amount of discipline and work ethic that you're talking about. So I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, it's just the grit and the grind. You gotta love the grit and the grind. Everyone loves accolades. Everyone loves to be pat on the back, stuff like that. But the grit and the grind, if you don't love the grit and the grind, you're never gonna get the pat on the back. You're never gonna get the accolade. You know what I'm saying? So, and it's all about, like I said, loving the grit and the grind, and being the best you that you possibly can be. You know, no matter if you're best brother, husband, son, be that best, and then everything else will work off. But on the court and off the court, on the field and off the field, it goes hands in hand. If you're a mess off the field, you're a mess on the field. That's how it is. You know, it goes hand in hand. So you got to be able to balance both worlds. You know, today, back then, it's like you couldn't, like today's athlete, it's too much social media out there. There's so much out there. The least little thing is can get from east to west coast in a matter of seconds.
Right.
You know? And so you have to be careful of the things you do and the things you say. Now you could believe in something, but don't mean that because you believe in it, don't mean you have to post it. You know, because you believe it, don't mean you have to say it. Some things is best to be unsaid. So everyone want to be this social media guru, but be the guru at your sport. Be the guru at your whatever sport or your life or your living or your job or whatever. Be that guru. You know, sports, we don't work around a 9-to-5 job. If you try to do sports as a 9-to-5 job, then you're gonna be working at a 9-to-5 job. You know? It's not 9-to-5. Sometimes it can be from 5:30 a.m. to 8 o'clock at night. It depends, and you have to have a very supportive cast. And I was very fortunate to have a very supportive cast around me when I played. You know what I'm saying? My brothers and sisters, my mom and dad, they've always been supportive of me. I remember my dad taking me from football practice, taking me to track practice, waiting on me after track practice, then bring me back down to the West End from Louisville, Kentucky. You know, I went to DeSales High School there in Louisville, Kentucky, and I had to get on 2 buses to get to that school, 2 public buses. And if I missed that second public bus, I was late for school. So therefore, I knew I had to catch I had to get myself up at 5, had to be out the house by 5:45, get on that bus from 40 from Broadway, get to 3rd and Broadway, and catch the other bus out to Kenwood. And it was just a routine. You know, my brothers went through, I went through it. It's just a routine that I knew that we had to do.
There has been an issue or a cause that you have decided to step up and put on the forefront. I mean, ever since before time, but mainly was put on center stage when Hank Gather's passed due to heart conditions. Most recently, Keontae Johnson basketball player from University of Florida. He had 2 episodes where he had collapsed, due to heart issues. A part of safebeat.org, I'm sorry, where you guys specialize in cardiology and, and function of the heart, to athletes per se. Yes, sir. So,
Yes.
let us know what's going on there. I think it's a great.
Safebeat.org is formed to give guys testing of your heart, make sure you're able to play sports.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times in young athletes, we just go out there and play, and no one never know if they had a heart murmur or nothing like that. One of my closest friends of me, when like a brother to me, because our families were so close, is Rod McCravey. Okay. He went to the University of Kentucky. He died his freshman year there at the University of Kentucky. He went off to track practice, went to track, came home, laid in his bed, and passed away. At that time, no one even knew he had a heart murmur. Nothing was. He was never tested for it or nothing like that. But he went through 4 years of high school, running track, playing sports, being very active. But now, boom, he come back from track practice there at the University of Kentucky, and now he died right there in his bed. And they have the Rod McCravey track meet every year in his honor. It's stuff like that, and that's what pushed me to seek out an organization like safebeat.org in his honor, because he, like I said, he was so close to we're like my mom and his mom call each other every day. Every day at 5:30 they talk. And I'm talking about it's been going on for at least 30 years or more. So it's just something like that that pushed me to find an organization like that, to be able to be more a part of it and get the awareness out there. Because if you're not aware, you never do. And unfortunate as minorities, we don't get a chance to get to the doctor. We don't get a chance to get our heart checked. And that's what this organization do. We go into the inner cities, we go into the cities where you don't have the money, but we can do it for you.
That's right. Now my neighborhood was impacted the same way. With one of my close friends, when he fell victim, to the heart murmur situation. Mm-hmm. So, like I said, that touched me personally. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so we just have to keep getting our guys to get tested, of going to the doctor. It's okay to go to the doctor. It's okay to say, hey, I'm a little overweight. I can do something. And I'm working with another organization called Change Your Numbers. Mm-hmm. And Change Your Numbers is change your health. It's changing your numbers can be if it's your diabetes, if it's your cholesterol, if it's your weight, whatever that number is. If you want it changed, is get out and try to show them the best way to eat, the proper way of working out, and stuff like that. It's changing your numbers. Change the number that you want to change. Now, unfortunately, you can't change your age, but everything else can change.
Okay, look, that's what I was waiting for you to say next.
Yes, sir. I had a question. This is for myself and my other coaches and people that are looking to join the coaches realm post-career. From what was the biggest transition from being on the field to then going on the sideline or in the booth, looking at the game from that perspective? Oh, wow. Pieces changed then,
Yeah, that was a huge transition. And unfortunate for me, when I retired in 2000, I didn't get right into coaching. Mm-hmm. I don't think I would have the patience to get into coaching. Coaching, you got to be very patient. You got to have this patience, because you got to deal with so many different attitudes and so many different personalities. Mm-hmm. So I retired in 2000. I didn't start coaching in 2005. My first coaching job was Berlin Thunder in NFL Europe. Mm-hmm. And the reason how I got into coaching is I started training guys in 2004, and I saw the techniques slipping away from defensive backs. And one defensive back told me, my college coach told me the backpedaling is really overrated. Well, I don't know who told you that like that. But to play DB, you have to backpedal.
Right. I was saying, how did he get past that?
I don't know. But see, and then that's where all that you see now guys are coming into the line of scrimmage and they just turning and running. That's where all that crap started creeping in and playing defensive back. But I started training guys in 04. I got my first coaching job with the Berlin Thunder in NFL Europe there. And then I fell in love with coaching. And ever since then, I fell in love with coaching. I just love the competitive of it. I love the teaching it. I like to see a guy improve each and every day, of telling him something, one time, one day, and having him get into the next day. It's just the joy of that, of seeing that, you know, and
being able to pull the potential out of
them, you know. And I tell my guys all the time, I'm a high demanding person. I know I am. And I know at times you're gonna get mad. You may be frustrated. You may want to quit. But if you can deal with me being high demanding, then you can deal with that fourth quarter when it's 3rd and 8 and you know the ball's coming your way and you can make that play.
That's right.
Now, the biggest gratification that I receive from it is the impact that you can have on someone. It can be life altering for a player.
That's right.
You know, and once you actually see the work and the investment that you put in a player, you know, and he begins to flourish outside of the sport, there's no other feeling like it.
Right. And as coaches, you can't be just a football coach.
No, sir.
You have to have so many different hats. One day you may have to be a mentor. One day you may have to be a dad. One day you may have to be a friend. One day you have to be a coach and tell them the truth and tell them that, yeah, here's what you're doing wrong and here's what you're doing right. And some days you may have to be a mentor and just listen.
Yes, sir.
You know, so it's so many different hats as a coach that you have to wear. And our young men need more positive coaches, you know, more coaches who's going to be there for them. Like now, I still like my NFL Europe guys and Berlin Thunder guys and guys I coached at Baylor and XFL. We still have these group chats where every now we're still group chatting with each other, you know. So it's fun to do those.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's one thing about it is I used to always say that, you know, being a coach, you have to be an M&M, right?
Yeah.
You have to be a mentor and a motivator, and you do those two things as a coach, and that's where you really start to change the life of the athlete that you're working with. And so I like you. I fell in love with that part of it, that being able to have someone who, you know, honestly, sometimes they didn't think that they could do this, you know, and then they trust in you and they get to that level or surpass it. And now it's changed their whole life, right? And, you know, more than just on the field, you know, even, you know, in the classroom and just, you know, in life situations. So that's an amazing thing.
Right. As you guys know, you can think of all your great coaches. You can think of all your bad coaches too.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But your coaches that you keep in contact with, those are the coaches who tell you the truth. They tell you the truth when you're messing up, and they put their hands around you and love you when you're doing good. And that's the one thing I tell a player: I'm never gonna lie to you. Good, bad, or indifferent, I'm never gonna lie to you. I'm gonna tell you exactly what I say. Now it's up for you to take the information.
That's right.
But granted, there's no motive behind it. My motive is to get you better as a person, as a player, as an individual. I have no motive. And I tell them, I don't feed my family off of you. I'm not going to feed my family off of your back. My family is already fed. So I don't need to feed my family off of you. And unfortunately, we may have some coaches out there that looking at a kid that, oh, I can get this, I can do this, I can do that, I can move up. That's the wrong way to look at it. Let him have his dream. And live his dream for him.
Yeah, and one thing I want to say real quick is that coaches that are listening to this, it is about the kid. When it stops being about the kid, you're not really coaching anymore.
No.
It's about the kid or about the athlete, whether it's a kid or the adult.
GOAT skills. Can you be the greatest of all time? Football, basketball, track and field? We can help you become the greatest version of yourself. To become the best you must be trained by and with the best. Downloadable workouts. Get trained by the best, and don't forget to wear the gear. GOATskills.com, where the best get started to finish on top.
To the question of the day. Huh?
All right, I've really been looking forward to asking you this question. So, when we consider everything that's going on in the last year, right? We're talking about the pandemic to all of the situations with racial injustice. How do you feel that both of those situations has impacted the sports as a whole, not just football, but sports in totality?
Uh, People stop caring about each other. You don't have that person in the arena or in the stadium where they care about, let's say, the Houston Texans or Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You may have a Spanish, you have a white, you have a black person, but they care about the Bucks. They have one thing in common, is that sports team. When you took the fans out of the stadium, and I know with COVID you had to, it got to everybody as an individual, blacks, white, uh, Hispanic over here, group over there. No one really came together and cared about one entity, And I think that when we can get the people back in the stands, I think of people caring about at least one thing, coming together at least one day out of the week and caring about one thing instead of 7 days out of the week, not caring about nothing but themselves. I think it would be much better. It's just the world now is so much in turmoil, with everyone's have a special group and this and that. And, it's the killing of a young black man. It's crazy that the world is getting like this, but I think as sports, if we can bring the world back, we can bring them back of caring at least about this, and then we can see each other differences in other ways. You got to respect each other differences, but I think the respect has gone away. And as individuals, godly people, we have to get the respect back for each and everybody else, for a person to have no remorse to kneel on a guy for that long and feel the life coming out of him, but no expression. And that tells you that the world is getting cold, and the world should get cold because we're all God's people.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And so how do you think sports moving forward can really help to push that agenda that you're talking about? I heard you say about cheering for that one cause, no matter what your race or creed is, that one cause. Is there any other ways that you feel that it can be that sports can be a catalyst to change?
The people's involved in the sports now, making it change. Your voice is like a LeBron James. Your voice is like a LeBron, your Tiger Woods, the guys with bigger voices of making that change. No matter if it's in the basketball world, the football world, you guys like Tom Brady's of the world, those elite football players, elite basketball players, elite baseball players. If they come out and say, okay, this is enough,
right,
then that's going to change. But until those guys, and I know some of the guys have come out and said something, which is great. I know LeBron is heavy into it, and I see some of his posts, which is great. But until those guys actually speak about it and be about it, then I think that will make the change. But until then, nothing's going to change until you can affect people's pockets.
That's right.
When you affect people's pockets into the sports world, I can guarantee it's going to make a change very quick.
Absolutely.
You have some owners do not want their pockets to be affected.
That's right.
Because you have to keep pushing the agenda.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Hey, at the same time, that is our aim here at ASAP Elite, to educate and to try to do our part to narrow the gap, where the information is less distributed. So everything that you blessed us with today, with your wisdom and through experience, we really appreciate you, brother.
Well, thank you guys, and I hope to be back on soon. All right.
Hey.
Well, hey, thank you so much, Coach.
Right.
I'll get back with you.
You guys have a great one. All right.
Yes, sir. Solid interview, man.
Solid. Well, man, one of the things that I really liked about this interview with Cris Dishman is the fact that, you know, he really dug in and talked about the part of the journey that our kids don't get to see with professional athletes, right? You may see, you like I tell my son, hey, stop watching all those highlights. Start looking for, you know, the grind that they do. Like, you know what I'm saying? I mean, they don't realize this is a 7-day-a-week job. Yeah. Like, I remember when Calvin Johnson, right, when he called it quits, and people were like, oh man, how does he call it quits? And then he's still in it. And I was just like, well, do you know what that man has to do to get ready for NFL football season? Man, you know, the thing is when he thought about this, you know, gave it another year after. Yeah. And so when you're sitting there and you're thinking about it and you're getting older, you're having injuries, you realize okay, I've had an amazing career already. Let's, you know, is it time to call it quits? Yep. And because they don't understand what professional athletes that play at that level, honestly, I'd say professional athletes that play at any level, that there's a lot that goes into it that when the cameras are off, that's exactly what he talked about, right? You know, in any generation through sports, even the social media generation, it's what they don't see that makes you who you are. That's what they do. Well, it's what people don't see that makes you better. Not only even on the sport, but even just in life, period, right? Yep. It's the thing. What are you gonna do when nobody else is there to hold you accountable? Yeah, what you do in the dark will come to light anytime, you know. Absolutely. Any aspect of life. But Coach, you know, he's down there at IMG, you know, changing lives there. We spoke about that. And, you know, it's a different type of high school coaching there opposed to other schools. It's pretty much college prep. Absolutely. You know, so he has to deal with those guys on a different level, you know, than, you know, just a common coach would, you know, deal with a regular player. You know, it's so many different personalities and so many different other characteristics that are, you know, that you have to curtail, you get what I'm saying, and bring to light in order to help them become better people. You know, so I just want to tip my hat to him, man, for the work that he's been doing. Thank you so much, Mr. Dishman. Look forward to talking to you again. Absolutely. All right, Professor Haas, here we go. Another one out the park. Yes, sir. See you next week.